I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who would write something like this. The kind of woman strangers judge in comment sections. The kind of wife people point at and say, she deserved what happened. But here I am. I don't know if I'm looking for sympathy or punishment anymore. Maybe I just want the truth to exist somewhere outside my head, because carrying it alone is slowly destroying me. My name is Lisa. I'm 33 years old, and until recently, I was married to a man who trusted me completely.
Danny.
If you met my husband, you wouldn't think anything dramatic would ever happen to us. He's quiet, observant, the kind of man who remembers passwords, backs up hard drives, and fixes problems before they become disasters. He's not loud, not flashy, not the type to dominate a room. And maybe that's where everything started to go wrong. We lived in a small town in Connecticut, the kind where routines are sacred and people recognize your car before they recognize your face. Our life looked fine, comfortable, predictable, too predictable. Danny fixed laptops for a living. He worked long hours, but not because he loved work, because he loved security, stability, order. Our evenings followed patterns. Dinner at the same time, TV on low volume, conversations about practical things. Bills, groceries, updates. At first, I told myself this was adulthood. This was what a successful marriage looked like once the excitement faded. But somewhere along the way, I started feeling invisible. Not unloved, just unnoticed. Danny loved me, I know that now. But love doesn't always feel like desire. And desire is a dangerous thing when it goes unfed for too long. I worked as an executive assistant at a prestigious law firm downtown, Morrison and Associates. It was demanding, competitive, and intoxicating in a way my home life wasn't.
People noticed how I dressed,
how I spoke, how efficiently I handled chaos. And one person noticed me more than anyone else. Richard Patterson, senior partner,
divorced,
confident in the way men get when success has never said no to them. He didn't flirt openly at first. That would have scared me away. He listened, complimented my work, asked about my ambitions, made me feel interesting again. It started harmless. Conversations during late afternoons. Coffee runs when the office thinned out. Jokes that crossed lines but stopped just short of guilt. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself Danny wouldn't care if he knew. That it wasn't cheating if nothing physical happened. That lie became oxygen. The first time Richard touched my arm, just briefly, just enough, I felt something electric shoot through me. I remember thinking, God, I'm still capable of feeling this. Instead of pulling away, I leaned into it.
I should have stopped then. I didn't.
The affair didn't begin with passion. It began with permission. Small allowances I gave myself. Rationalizations stacked on top of each other until I couldn't tell where the truth ended and the excuses began. Lunch meetings turned into private rooms at hotels near the interstate, places that felt anonymous enough to erase consequences. I learned how to lie without shaking. Danny would ask how my day was, and I'd answer without hesitation. I learned which details to include and which to erase. I learned how to come home smelling like hotel soap and not feel immediate shame. Or maybe I did feel it, and just buried it deeper. Richard made me feel chosen, desired, temporary important. At home, Danny fixed my laptop when it slowed down, bought groceries I forgot to list, asked if I needed anything. I told myself those things didn't count as romance anymore. I was wrong. The worst part isn't that I cheated. It's that I underestimated my husband. Danny watched quietly. He always did. And while I was busy convincing myself I was smarter than everyone else, he was noticing patterns. I didn't see the shift when it happened. Didn't notice the way his eyes lingered a second longer. The way his questions became fewer, not more. I mistook silence for ignorance. That mistake would cost me everything. I didn't know then that my life was already cracking beneath my feet. I didn't know that my secrets weren't safe anymore. And I definitely didn't know that the man I thought was predictable was already planning to walk away. I thought I was in control. I wasn't. I wish I could say I felt guilty every moment I was cheating. That would make me sound like a better person. The truth is uglier. For a while, I felt powerful. I was living two lives and somehow managing both. At work, I was confident, desired, chosen. At home, I was still the wife, dependable, familiar, safe. Danny didn't suspect anything. Or at least, that's what I told myself. Looking back now, I realize how arrogant I became. How convinced I was that I was smarter than the situation, smarter than my marriage, smarter than my husband, Richard, and I developed a rhythm. Tuesdays and Thursdays became late workdays. Danny stopped questioning it. Or maybe he never really did. He just trusted me enough not to interrogate. I took that trust and used it like a weapon against him. Hotels became routine. Same places, same excuses. I stopped seeing them as risky. They became boring in their own way, which should have scared me but didn't. What scared me was the idea of going back to being ordinary. Richard liked expensive things. He liked control. He liked the way I looked at him like he had answers. And I liked the way he made me forget I was someone's wife. We didn't talk about love. That would have made it real. We talked about escape. About excitement. About how people like us deserved more. I laughed when he joked about Danny. That's the part one hate myself the most for. I laughed when Richard said my husband was predictable. I laughed when he said Danny probably thought romance was fixing my laptop. I laughed because laughing made me feel aligned with him, like choosing sides. I didn't know someone was listening. One afternoon, after another hotel meeting, I came home feeling unusually tense. Danny was calm, too calm. He didn't ask questions. He didn't comment on my mood. He just smiled and asked if I wanted tea. I should have noticed then. The house felt observant.
Like it was watching me.
That night, I had stomach cramps. Real ones. Sharp, sudden, unbearable. I blamed food. Stress. Anything but what was actually happening. The next few days were strange. Richard disappeared from the office. People whispered. He didn't answer my texts for hours, then days. When he finally called, his voice was different.
Hoarse. Angry.
Afraid. Something had gone wrong at one of our meetings. Something he believed wasn't an accident. I didn't understand what he meant at first. He spoke in fragments. Panic leaking through every word. Then it happened to me. The burning. The color. The humiliation. I won't describe it in detail, partly because it still makes my skin crawl, and partly because even now I don't fully understand what caused it. All I know is that I ended up in a hospital bathroom, staring at my reflection, barely recognizing myself.
Bright.
Unnatural.
Exposed.
Doctors asked questions. Nurses exchanged looks. I gave half answers. Lies stacked on top of lies. Richard wanted police. Investigators. Justice. I wanted the floor to swallow me. When I got home, Danny was waiting.
Calm.
Gentle. Concerned. Too perfect. He asked if I was okay. If I needed anything. If I wanted him to make soup. I almost confessed right then. Almost. But fear is louder than guilt. I told him it was a work accident. Some kind of exposure. He listened without interrupting. No accusations. No anger. That silence felt heavier than screaming. Over the next few days, things spiraled. Videos surfaced online. People recognized us. Recognized me. Friends stopped texting. Coworkers avoided eye contact. I took leave from work, claiming medical reasons. Richard called constantly.
Panicked.
Demanding solutions. Danny stayed quiet. That terrified me more than anything else. Then came the confrontation. Not loud. Not violent. Precise. Danny knew. He didn't say it all at once. He let it unfold, slowly, surgically. Every lie I told was met with calm questions. Every denial collapsed under facts I didn't know he had. Hotel names.
Times. Patterns.
I felt naked in front of him. When I finally admitted it, not everything, but enough, he didn't yell. He looked disappointed. That look destroyed me more than anger ever could. He told me he had been documenting things. Preparing. Not to punish me, but to protect himself. That's when I realized something chilling. While I was chasing excitement, he was already emotionally leaving. Richard tried to fight. tried to threaten, tried to bargain. Danny didn't blink. He wasn't trying to win. He was trying to end things cleanly. And suddenly I was alone. My affair partner distanced himself the moment consequences arrived. My friends questioned my stories. My workplace became unbearable. And the man I thought would never leave was already gone in every way that mattered. I started begging, crying, promising therapy, promising change. Danny listened and said no. He told me something I'll never forget. You're sorry this happened. You're not sorry you did it.
He was right.
That realization crushed me. Because for the first time, I saw myself clearly, not as a woman seeking love, but as someone who traded integrity for validation. The divorce papers came soon after. I didn't fight them. I didn't have the strength. Or the right. By then, my reputation was already broken. My marriage was just the last thing left to lose. And I lost it quietly. I thought the worst part would be signing the divorce papers. I was wrong. The worst part was everything that came after, when no one was watching anymore. The day Danny filed for divorce, he didn't make a speech.
He didn't insult me.
He didn't even look angry. He just slid the papers across the kitchen table like he was handing me a utility bill. I'll stay at Mike's for a few days, he said. You don't need to rush packing. That sentence broke something inside me. Not because he was leaving, but because he wasn't trying to hurt me while doing it. I wanted rage. I wanted drama. I wanted him to scream, so I could convince myself I mattered enough to be hated. Instead, he gave me space. And space is where regret grows teeth. The house felt hollow without him. Too quiet. Every sound echoed. The refrigerator hum. The ticking clock, my own breathing at night when sleep refused to come. I kept expecting him to text. To ask if I was okay. To reconsider.
He didn't.
When I tried calling, he answered politely. Briefly. Like someone talking to a former coworker, not a wife of 8 years. That hurt more than insults ever could. At work, things fell apart quickly. Rumors spread faster than I could deny them. People didn't ask questions, they just stopped inviting me to meetings. HR called me in for a conversation. They spoke carefully, like they were handling something fragile and already broken. Richard Patterson had resigned.
Just like that.
No goodbye. No apology. No explanation beyond a vague message about personal reasons. The man I risked everything for vanished the moment consequences appeared. That was the moment the illusion finally shattered. I hadn't been special. I'd been convenient. When I tried reaching out to Richard, his replies grew colder, shorter. Eventually, they stopped entirely. I sat on the floor of my living room one night, phone in my hand, realizing something devastating. I had lost my husband for a man who wouldn't even return my messages. Friends disappeared too. Not dramatically, quietly. Invitations stopped coming. Group chats went silent. People I once confided in suddenly had busy schedules. Infidelity doesn't just end marriages. It poisons communities. The divorce process was efficient. Brutally so. Danny had prepared. Financial records. Timelines. Documentation. He wasn't cruel, he was thorough. He kept the house. The savings. The cars. I didn't argue. I didn't deserve to. I moved into a small apartment on the outskirts of Hartford. Thin walls, noisy neighbors, and furniture bought secondhand because my bank account no longer recognized me. At night, I'd lie awake replaying moments from my marriage. Not the fights, the quiet ones. Danny bringing me tea when I had headaches. Danny fixing things before I noticed they were broken. Danny trusting me without suspicion. Trust is invisible until it's gone. Months passed. The attention faded. The gossip found newer scandals. My name stopped being whispered, which somehow hurt even more. I took a job at a call center. No ambition. No prestige. Just headphones, scripts, and a reminder every hour that this was my new reality. I learned how to live smaller. I learned how to carry shame without letting it crush me in public. But at night it crushed me anyway. Sometimes I'd scroll through old photos, vacations, birthdays, ordinary days that once felt boring and now felt sacred. Danny never reached out. I wanted to believe he missed me. I needed to believe that losing me hurt him too. But deep down, I knew better. He had grieved our marriage while still inside it. By the time I realized what I'd done, he was already free. One evening, after months of silence, I sent him a message. I rewrote it 10 times before pressing send. I told him I understood now. That Richard was never going to choose me. That I traded 8 years of loyalty for 6 months of ego. I didn't ask for forgiveness. I didn't deserve it. I just wanted him to know that I finally saw the value of what I destroyed. He never replied. And strangely, I understood. Some apologies come too late to be useful. People think regret is dramatic, crying, breakdowns, begging. But real regret is quiet. It's waking up every day knowing the life you're living is a direct result of choices you can't undo. It's realizing that no one owes you a second chance.
I don't blame Danny for leaving.
I don't blame him for being methodical, calm, detached. He didn't ruin my life. I did. I crossed boundaries because I felt bored. I lied because it was easier than telling the truth. I betrayed someone who loved me because I wanted to feel wanted. And in the end, I got exactly what I asked for. Attention. Consequences. Loneliness. If anyone reading this is standing where I once stood, flirting with the idea that secrecy makes things exciting, let me be clear. It doesn't. It makes you careless, arrogant,
Blind.
and when the truth arrives, and it always does, it doesn't knock politely. It takes everything. I don't know what Danny's life looks like now. Sometimes I imagine him happy, peaceful, maybe with someone who appreciates the quiet strength I once overlooked. I hope that's true. As for me, I'm still learning how to live with myself. Not as a wife, not as a villain, just as a woman who made irreversible choices and has to carry them forward. This isn't a story about revenge.
It's a story about loss.
And how sometimes the punishment fits the crime perfectly without anyone needing to raise their voice.